Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready to go there and back again on an unexpected journey to Middle Earth? Because that's what we're going to do here with episode 5 of Rings of Power. Sorry, technically, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. I always forget. That's technically the full-on title. But we
There's
don't.
the rings, though, right? It's the Rings
Lord
of
of
Power?
the Rings, the Rings of Power. I think
Yeah,
it's the
okay.
Yeah.
Rings of Power. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
But we don't ever put Lord of the Rings part because that would just kill our SEO, and you couldn't even put like. I don't even think if we were to do.
It's not
the-
long. Or yeah, you don't have enough like characters.
Yeah, I don't think we have
I've
enough
tried
characters
it.
to do it. Yeah, it's just not enough. So for us, it's Rings of Power. I am more than meets the eye, Travis Snell, and I'm joined by.
I'm the Mariner, Kirklin Patzer.
And I am the elf lover, Dylan Muss.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we do this every week. This is, I guess, man, are we at the halfway point, or is it? I can't remember. No, this is only 8 episodes, so we're over the halfway point now, or we're hitting halfway point now. Sorry, because we're at 4, so we're going in that territory. So lots of
That seems
interesting
crazy.
stuff. Yeah, it's gonna fly. That's what's gonna be fun. We're gonna have all these 4 shows on at the same time, and then they're all gonna end like relatively within a week each other, and there'll be nothing. But yeah, so we do this every week, just like She-Hulk, just like Andor starting next week, just like House of Dragon. We also got newscasts. We also got other reviews. We got side quests that covers all the video game stuff. Me and Dylan. Well, we didn't do both episodes, but I was on one, and then you do one with Taylor. Double side quests this week and stuff.
And then
like
we're
that.
doing a Lord of the Rings topic next week as well, so make sure to tune in for that.
I'm excited. I've been trying to inspiration, some ideas. Not inspiration. Think like the web app inspiration. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but that's
Oh, I
what I've been
remember
doing
that,
in my mind. Oh, I used to love that. That was great for planning. But yeah, and then everything you need to know: social media, video, audio, exclusive episodes, how to support us, find us, Discord, all in the links below. And the best way to listen, head over to Patreon, because not only to get, depending on your tier, ad-free exclusive, which I also, geez, I should start. I guess there's an after 9 this weekend too. I feel like I've got kind
That's
of
right.
forgotten about
Saturday.
this.
Up, eh?
There
In
is
the
an after
PMs.
9 Saturday 6 p.m. PST at the Phase 4 at the Phase 2 tier. You can call in and join and talk and everything like that, and a bunch of other cheers and get exclusive episodes, early episodes. There's going to be the MCU ones going up soon. Didn't have time today, but there'll be 2 exclusive episodes up there and then another one next week. So tons of stuff there. And not only that, when you support us there, you get to put more back in the podcast. And plus, look out, because there might be something for Extra Life that might be some fun crossover with Extra Life and merchandise material and stuff like that. There might be some exclusive. Here's the tease I can work on: an exclusive Extra Life / Lord of the Rings themed shirt. So it's gonna be something
Ooh.
spicy and stuff like that. And all the proceeds will go to Extra Life. So look out for that. It's gonna be a fun time. And thank you to our Patreon producers at the highest tier: Aaron Brain, April Darkness, Smalley Biggs, and Joshua Wright. And a big shout out to Manscaped for one of our sponsors. Just like Patreon, you support them, you support us. Head over there, use the podcast code GVPOD to get 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Dylan Muss, what did you think of episode 5 for Rings of Power?
Episode 4. Episode
four,
4,
Rings
The
of
Great
War.
Wave.
What are
And
you
I
gonna
even-
think about episode 5 though?
Yeah, tell me in advance. Yeah.
You look in my Palantir. Yeah, I think the first half of this episode I was like not really vibing with it that much, but then
Oh.
the second half I was getting pretty into it. I think this episode was just kind of, it was quite slow, I guess. So it took a bit for me to feel like I was really invested in a particular plot of this episode with the various characters. So yeah, there's definitely some good stuff here. I'm very excited to break down some things. I got some questions for the expert here. But there's also a couple plot things that I'm a little bit confused on or aren't really making sense to me. And I don't know, I feel like the show kind of confused me in a couple ways. I also got to say, like, there's some characters that are fucking hard to understand what they are saying sometimes, and it makes certain scenes. Like, I guess I should be turning on the closed caption for moments like that. But anyway, I'm still liking the show. I like this episode. But yeah, I think I'm maybe a little more neutral on this one overall.
So it'll be fun to review because I think I'm a bit more reverse of Dylan. I really, really love the beginning and then the middle. Not that I was trailing off, but I was like, oh, okay, this is fine. Then the end, they really won me back. But I would say, honestly, with the bullet right now, I think this is my favorite episode. And I don't think this is like, man, one of the best episodes I've seen all year. But I think for the show, there's multiple moments where I was doing adjusting the seat, like what we do in here, whether it's lore stuff, whether it's action stuff. I think and it's great because we are halfway through. I think they're setting up our main plot points and getting to some not sort of resolution, but sort of you see some end goals of, okay, certain people may have to team up or we got to do this. And there's going to be multiple seasons, so I'm not saying, oh, season 1 going to end it all, but I think you're kind of getting that path where the first few episodes, I'd say 1 and 2 specifically, felt a lot like we had to get into the world. You got to meet a lot of characters, you got to meet locations. But now I feel like it's like a video game where, okay, you've learned the tutorials, now you're starting to move on your own and you're going your own route and everything. So I really like this episode. Like I said, I think it's my favorite so far. I think I liked majority, even the stuff that I would liked less than, I still liked it overall. So I don't think I had many cons in here. I think my non-spoiler cons, again, I hate to harp on this, but I'm not digging Elrond yet. I'm waiting for that, because like I said that in our rankings, right? I had Elrond in my top 10 and I'm waiting, and I don't think the actor's bad per se. I'm just waiting to lock in the same way I have Galadriel, or lock in the same characters that I haven't even met before that are new, that I'm like, oh, I'm into them and stuff like that. So I want to like him a little bit more, but overall I think and again, I like what we're doing here, where there were several storylines that weren't in this week, which I think is smart, because we talked about that before, where at least for myself, I felt we could have too much going on, and it's smart that, okay, I won't say who, but there's certain people or characters like, oh, we didn't see them this week, so I'm assuming we're going to see them next week, or if we saw them this week, it was a lot more minor. So I was happy with this episode. So Kirklin, were you happy with this episode?
Yeah, I was happy with this episode. I think it's funny how you guys were kind of like the opposite in some sort of way, and I was just rock solid all the way through. I don't think it was my favorite, just because I was really digging the action in some of the earlier sequences. I feel like this episode kind of holds back a little bit on that, but like there's still a lot of great stuff in here. I definitely have some theories on what I think is going to occur going forward after how this episode ended. So it's funny have those thoughts, because they definitely have changed. I mean, obviously they've made some changes to like canon stuff to make their own story work, and they have thrown a couple things. But now I'm starting to like see the path again. It's like we like veered off, and I'm like see the main path again. It's like, okay, I know where we're going here. So I mean, I could be wrong. Been wrong many times before, but I don't know. I'm excited to talk about that in the spoiler section. Score just continues to be phenomenal. Bear McCready,
I think it is.
Yes,
McCready or McCreary, I think, but
I think it's Bear McCreary. But anyways, he's phenomenal with what he's been doing. It's totally just, for me, capturing that essence of just Middle Earth, and I'm really digging it, and just so many beautiful shots that like I've already harped on in like earlier episodes. Like it's just that this show is so visually beautiful. I'm so happy with like the production budget to like actually do it. And yeah, I don't know. Overall, I just thought it was rock solid. I'll save everything for like spoilers. I don't want to like misspeak on certain things. So yeah, without further ado.
So if you've not seen episode 4, go watch it, come back, and we'll be here talking about it after this first ad break. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So Kirk, you go ahead, expand on that. You said you didn't want to be misquoted, you want to say some things, you don't want to dune yourself, So now the floodgates are open. Flood away.
So, I mean, if you didn't already know, some point, and they've been hinting at it earlier in the show, of just like the fall of Numenor is going to be happening at some point in the. I don't know if it's happening in this season or if like next season or something, but we're going to be seeing it. They've already like hinted at it so many times. We keep seeing these like dream sequences of like just the flood happening. And I was just curious how like the actual corruption was going to come to Numenor, because Sauron has obviously something to do with that. And the way that I found out, or the way that I understood it worked, was Ar-Pharazôn, which is the Chancellor character.
That's a noodle for sure.
That's a noodle? What do you mean?
It sounds like Alfredo, like something to do with like a pasta,
yes.
like a Franzron.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'll take some of that with some goat cheese on the side. Sounds delicious. I'll take some of Franzron.
So Ar-Pharazôn, from what I know, was like the last like actual king of Numenor, like the last good king of Numenor.
And that's the guy with the bad wig right now, right?
Yeah, he is actually. He's like the chancellor, which is interesting. So that's something that's a little bit different, because we have like the Queen Regent, who's obviously stepping in because her father is like ill. We didn't get a name on him. Mm-hmm. I would imagine if it's the or if it's like the king before Ar-Pharazôn should have been, it would have been Tar Palantir, I think his name was.
He just has Palantir in his name. Is it?
It's
Are
a sweet name. Yeah.
they're named after him? The Palantir would be, or
Like maybe the Palantirs were made by Feanor, the same
that's
guy
a
that
mighty
did, like,
fine coincidence. If
Silmarils.
not,
Yeah, absolutely. And like they didn't say his name, so it definitely could not be him as well. They could have just made this new character. But anyways,
He's not looking
Arpharazon.
good.
Sorry.
He's not looking good.
No, he's not looking good. Yeah, he's looking like that
Any day now.
that old guy in Jurassic World, or with the pillow.
Yeah, with
but
the pillow. Yeah, one pillow and it's over for the Palatine.
But anyways, Arpharazon hears of Sauron doing some bad stuff, sails over to Middle Earth and just like fucks him up. Sauron loses, and then in defeat, he's like, "Okay, I'll go with you as a prisoner back to Numenor." And like that is how the corruption kind of happens. Like Sauron just like obviously whispers some dark stuff into Arpharazon's ear, and then Travis Snell, GeekVerse podcast.
So my question is, when he F's him up, does he actually F him up and Sauron takes advantage of the situation?
It's just like their forces. Like, yeah.
Oh, okay, no, I meant because when he said
placeholder
Sauron
name.
takes him back, though, I thought, was it like an intentional, like, oh, I'm going to lose this battle so I can get taken? Is it that more?
I would say so.
Okay.
I would say I haven't like read thoroughly about that battle, but I would imagine so. He's just so conniving and always has these tricks. So I would imagine that would have been the case because
that tracks.
I mean, his end goal worked out, right? Like he brought the fall of Numenor.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously, he got his ring, all that stuff. But so anyways, Arpharazon is the one that brings him back, and then Sauron keeps whispering into his ear, makes him kind of go evil, and who isn't going to like Middle Earth here is Arpharazon, who's this like Chancellor character who I always thought had like really positive vibes going around. Like he seemed like just a cool dude, but I don't know. There was that one speech in the streets where he seemed pretty sus, and the fact that we have like our Queen Regent who like seems to finally be like seeing Galadriel's side, and then like this is a big announcement. Like she's going as a symbol of like friendship between like elves and men. Like she's actually gonna take her herself back to like the mainland and help out the Southlands. Just clears up like her throne for like Arpharazon, who's already like a chancellor type character, to just start doing sus things. Now I don't know if they're gonna go this route where like Sauron actually is still in like Mordor, and then maybe it's like the Queen Regent or something gets him back. But like I feel like because they're changing like Arpharazon not being that person that goes to the mainland, I think he's already going to be doing some sus things. Like he's already been kind of preaching like elves are kind of bad, like they'll never have hands on our Numenor.
One day
but
we'll
then
rule them.
And then shortly after, like his Queen Regent is like, no, we're doing it this way, and like it's completely different from what he's saying. So I definitely think that's going to be showing up a lot more of just like his own intentions of just getting his hands on the throne or something like that.
Which is strange because when we met him last week, I felt like they were playing him up to be the more nicer, understanding character, and her to be the more maybe like not racist, but kind of like elves, like that sort of looking down them, stuff like that. But now it's kind of swapped. So I don't know if it's like he has looked at the situation and changed his mind, or if he was just trying to appeal a bit nicer as like a peacekeeper. Because that right away she wanted to kind of lock up Galadriel, and he's like, no, like we can make this work and stuff like that. But now when he's like, we could own them one day, it's like, oh, this took a real sharp turn right away. Like I don't know where that came from, and the guy's like, yeah, we can. So
and like going into the show too, I thought for sure that Arpharazon was the Queen Regent's like father already. So it was just because I knew that he was king and that she was like the new queen. I didn't understand why he just like retired and was just like setting back, like letting her rule now. Obviously that's cleared up because that wasn't her father. So
and I think the other part of that too is, who's another guy who really does not want to leave Numenor is Halbrand still. We don't really know what's going on with him. I feel like he took a bit of a step back here, and I'm really curious like what his arc is going to be if he truly does stay back and everyone else is gone. Like, and you're right, like what's going to happen in Numenor if we kind of just have a couple of the key characters that we've been introduced to? Seems like Isildur, his squad are all leaving as well, going to battle and stuff. And then when we even got that scene of them in the prison when Halbrand was like kind of leaking some information, under the table conversation kind of thing between the two of them. So I don't know if they know each other or are kind of talking in code to each other, so to speak, or if that truly was one of their first interactions. But maybe that's worth throwing out there too. But I think what you all that stuff you mentioned is very interesting because I was getting a little bit of sus tones from him too this episode. So
Yeah.
all of that tracks. I like it.
If he didn't have that, I would have been hesitant to even like speak of it right now because like maybe we're building up to like a cool reveal. But like there's already dropping these breadcrumbs of just some unrest like on Numenor. Like clearly public order isn't as great as it could be. So some interesting stuff's going to be there. And yeah, with Hallbrand, it's a big question mark here because like they are kind of like setting him up to be this like Sauron type character in disguise, right? Because like technically he's the king of like the Southlands, and then at the like near the end of this episode, that one Southlands dude is like, our king is coming back. Ever heard of Sauron? Like just like dropping these things. I really think it's just like a red herring thing. I've seen multiple theories about this character that some people thought that he is the Oathbreaker King, like the one that made the pact with Aragorn, like in Return of the King. I saw that theory. I don't think that is it. Yeah, I feel like they're just in different locations. I've also seen one that some people thinking that he might become like a ring wraith or something. But I again,
sense.
yeah, it's because not all the Nazgul are like they know where they came from. Like I believe only 3 of them are actually like Numenorians. There's Kamul the Easterling, of course, he's from the east, and then they don't like actually pinpoint where the other ones are from. So I guess it could be him because technically he's like the king of a village that was on Melkor's side. So definitely like bad ties there.
Now, I will say, because I think we did this like a little low-key, but a lot with WandaVision, that this character could end up being nothing and just a disappointing plot point. So everyone prepare yourselves for that too. Of like, you know, like there to me, it's either like, oh yeah, there is something fun going on, or it is just this guy who's from this city and he doesn't know if he wants to go back or not because he lost, right? Like it could literally be very simple, and that's where, because these shows that have these big lores and worlds, we can get into this, oh, could be this, so that's where, and I'm fine if it's not that. I'm fine. I almost would prefer if he's just like a regular dude. My hope is if he is just a regular dude who's scared to go back, then let's like make it a bit of a better character, because I haven't hated the character, but I haven't felt, oh man, he's on screen, or I'm never thinking, oh man, what's going on with Hallbrand? You know, like when I'm watching the show and we're going between different characters, like when he got locked out with Galadriel or vice versa, like, oh right, they're gonna have a scene here and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I don't. It feels like, okay, even if a lot of our main characters leave to the mainland, like we still have Ayarian, I think her name is, where they're setting up some love story
pronunciation,
here.
I must say. That was beautiful. I can't
I feel
even
like you gotta like roll the tongue a bit.
I can't roll my R's, unfortunately. I struggle with that. I even speak French and I can't do it. So.
That name's hard to say if you don't like throw a little elven twist on there. But you know, they're setting up the storyline where her and this guy are kind of flirting with each other, and like, why else would they be doing that unless it's actually going to go somewhere? And I'm guessing they're both staying back on the mainland, or maybe it'll just be something where he is going off to war, and then they have some emotional scene next episode where he's leaving and she's like seeing him off to battle and stuff like that. Or maybe she goes too. I don't know, but I don't know. I'm just trying to think about, okay, if our characters that we know are leaving, like how much content is there on Numenor with just the Chancellor and just Hallbrand, if those are the only other 2 kind of characters of interest that we like have been introduced to so far. I know they weren't in episode 1 and 2 didn't have Numenor at all, so we still potentially just need more time. But I mean, yeah, we're already halfway through the season, so
I'll be very interested when we get the season finale to see like what like that whole dynamic of them flirting, maybe being a couple of like, was it needed? Was it something that like, does it lean in anything, or is it just another like love-ish story for the show? Like I'm excited because I feel like that thing.
Do you mean with a Yadian, or do you mean with
Isildur's
Galadriel?
sister?
Okay.
Galadriel not as much, because I feel like they have kind of dropped that. And I feel like now that she's talked about going back, he feels a bit more aggressive towards Galadriel, or just her ideas and stuff. But all it takes is for him to show up, try to be a hero, and maybe they get it on in a barn somewhere, right, or something.
Not
so like with this, I don't,
I'm sitting on that
what
island.
a perfect Sauron twist, whatever, So with Isildur's sister, though, I just I feel like there's a few storylines in the show that we could be at the end of this, or even next year when we get a second season, could look at it and go, oh, that might have been a waste of time. Or they could be great and lead into another thing. And that's kind of the good thing about the show, like where we are halfway through the season. You're like, okay, we see a lot of things they're laying down, but is this going to really Or is it just like, hey, we introduced Isildur's sister and we need something for her to do? She's going to have this flirtation with this guy, which is not the worst thing, but it's like, I don't know if it's needed in this overall story. And I feel like there's a few plot points like that. Same with Hallbrand. If he just turns out to be this guy who's kind of scared to go back, it's like, do we exactly need this character? I don't know. And that's where the show's going to have to do it. But I was not that I wasn't digging that. I thought their chemistry and the acting was fine. But at the same time, I was watching, okay, why is this in the show right now? Like, why is this something we're focusing on? And that's my worry, is that it's just a love story for this character, which I don't even know if we need to focus on Isildur's sister yet, because Isildur is going to go over there, and even the stuff we're getting with Isildur is very light. It's just him bickering with his friends because he dropped a fucking rope, and it was like, okay, he ruined their lives.
He's distracted, yeah.
Just never look at the sun, people. Get you right in the eye. So
It's true.
Don't look at the lights.
yeah.
While we're talking about Numenor stuff, a couple more things here. I mean, one, just that shot of the waves coming in and crashing the city down looked fucking amazing. Like that. I mean, there was obviously no chance in hell that was actually happening. Of course, it was a vision of some sort, but it was still, it was very cool.
I didn't think we were going to be getting
second.
I didn't think we were getting the destruction of Numenor this early in the show.
I was like, yeah, that pacing is fucked. Like, I don't know why you guys did that.
I was worried when they were watching Galadriel leaving the boat and she started to look at the tree. I thought it was going to happen right then. Like, they were going to say, like, right the second Galadriel happened, it, like, got destroyed. And I was like, oh, don't
That'd
go
be
down
sad.
this route. Yeah, don't go to this route. But
That'd be sad,
Yeah.
not because like Numenor and a lot of people are dying. It's just like, really, they had to do this early in the show. Because I'm loving Numenor. Like we're getting different like aerial shots, different like locations, like that courtyard that Farazan was actually like giving that speech, with just like the architecture on the sides, very much just getting the vibes of like ancient Roman Greece and like that type of vibe of just like the beautiful architecture, and I'm loving it. Just like the really colorful like tunic things that they're wearing. Yeah, I'm loving Numenor, so I would be very, very sad if we just said goodbye to it that early on, because yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's just great to see how much work they're putting into what seems like every scene in those ways. Like even the scene when they're at the docks and they're sending Galadriel off, like that whole set piece looked amazing. And it's like a very short scene, but they still like went above and beyond. And I mean, I don't know where the line is of like what's a CGI green screen and what's something they built, but it seems like they're going, like they're making like nice big sets and then just kind of filling in that like farther backdrop. I mean, I could be just getting completely fooled. Maybe the whole thing is on a green screen, but whatever it is, they're making it look very realistic, and it's a place that I feel like I can walk around in it. Like it just feels like the textures are all there. Everything is so realistic. I just love to see it.
I've seen some like behind the scenes shots of like not this scene in particular, but like definitely of like that boat sequence, and like they actually had like definitely a lot of physical like actual prop things on there. So but yeah, just adding on to what you said of like the seamless like transition, I guess, from like practical to CGI. Like it's fooling me. Like it looks phenomenal. Like there's a moment where just like a giant gate is there, and I'm just staring at it, looking for some sort of ripple to like tell that it's CGI. It's like I think they actually built that. Like it looks really, really good. And it's in those moments that like it's not even hidden in like darkness. Like it's daylight, it's bright. It looks good though. It doesn't have that like weird yellow haze or something that sometimes they throw on there to make it just feel hot.
Feel hot.
Yeah.
feel hot. Yeah.
I quite like the storyline between Galadriel and the Queen Regent. What is her name? Do we know her name?
It was like Miriel or something. I'll get it actually
Miriel.
up.
But I liked that arc of, obviously we first got, she's not very trusting of her. She's kind of fearful of her presence too, of course, when she first arrives and the one leaf pops off. But then like just the development they get, that scene that they have in the, I guess the tower is where Queen Regent's father is. And then like, yeah, them just kind of teaming up at the end. I think that all works for me, and I'm excited to see more of those two together. I like that kind of unlikely duo. And just side note, Queen Regent, every single costume she wears looks fucking amazing. She is so stylish, so cool. That one like golden like bracelet thing that was kind of going
with the
around
gems
her head
and stuff. In it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And all the like robes and whatnot, like just looks amazing. So cool.
Okay, so yeah, so Miriel, with like
Muriel.
some elvish little lines in there that I can't roll
Yeah.
my R, so I can't
Threes.
say it properly in there.
Gotcha.
And then because it says like her title is like Tar Muriel, and I think Tar must mean like king or like
Ooh.
leader or something, because we had like Tar Palantir. Apparently
Oh,
that
okay.
is her father, like according to the lore. So they haven't name dropped him. What did I
There
just
you
say?
go.
Palantir? No, Palantir. That's what I meant to say. I don't know. I woke up not too long ago, so I'm a little wacky, but
Whatever it
I
is.
apologize there.
Speaking of Palantirs, I mean,
Mhm.
Kirkland, I'm sure you were frothing at the mouth when you saw
Oh
that.
yeah, I was juicing. I forgot we even got the shot like in one of the trailers too. So I like knew
Oh,
it was
yeah,
coming,
me
but
too.
like she just revealed it. I was still like, I love what the Palantir are. I love just the mystery behind them too. Like every time they get brought up, it's like one of six or whatever the number is. It's just like we don't know where the other ones are. It's just this like really ominous like orb. It's like I've touched Palantir before, not this
Not
one.
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like I just love that mystery behind it. It's so intriguing to me. And yeah, I thought that was such an awesome sequence. I feel like maybe like when she grabbed it and then it like went to the dream of her like turning around. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just corrupted by memes these days, but like Boromir just popped up in my head with like the supercut, just popped in instantly, because she does this like turn thing. She doesn't have a big smile like he did, but
like
again,
CGI board
corrupted
mirror
my
from Return of the
corrupted by
King. Yeah.
memes.
Right.
But no, yeah, and then again, like the water coming in, the flood and all that stuff. So I thought that was really epic, and the way that it just like cracked. You don't know if like the actual Palantir is cracking, and then it transitions to this like big crack, and then it takes us into. So I thought that effect was good. It was just like her initial turnaround, and again, it was my own problem I had with it. But
Either I had not seen that trailer, I had forgot that they showed a Palantir, but I loved that because we were talking about last week of, okay, she doesn't trust Galadriel and she's talking about some like prophecy or something, right? So it's like how she or hinting towards, and like how is she coming to this conclusion? Why? What is propelling her in this way? And I love the second I saw that fucking like tower with a cloak over, it's like, okay, I know what we're doing right now. And that to me made it all work, because we've talked about how they can be very tricky devices where they can show you a future, and that's where I love. Even Galadriel had that line of, it shows you things that have not yet come to pass, very similar to Fellowship. And then of course she's like, but there are some things that have passed, like you arrive. So it's like, I like that it does help you, but at the same time, like, it's magic. It definitely shows you things that could for sure happen, but it's very much like an 8-ball where just because it's showing you this doesn't mean, like, you can just shake it up, you can get anything, And also she keeps getting this vision of Galadriel's going to show up, and I like that motivation of, that's why I'm going to get you off this island. I'm going to announce it because I want you far away to kind of hopefully end whatever that chain is, whatever that timeline is of everything going to crap. Now it's gone completely 180 because now a bunch of them are going and she's going with her and everything like that. But still, you can look at that, if once this gets destroyed, you go, well, should she have just sent her away? Because maybe that would have saved this place, and so that stuff they will be replaying in their mind. So, yeah, I liked everything about that scene in the reveal. I think it was smart to have it in there, and I like having them.
My lore question is what, like, just another Palantir that Galadriel obviously had used at some point, but now that they're all missing, at least that's what Muriel says, but where would Galadriel have used one in the past, and what would be the situation in which it has gone missing? Because you would think if the elves are in a good place and they presumably had it, why would they get rid of it? How would they lose it? I'm curious about that.
yeah, I don't remember specifically like where they were when Feanor like made them. Like I can't remember if it was actually on Beleriand, which is like the actual like Middle Earth continent.
Feanor is?
Sorry?
Remind me who Feanor is, the guy who created them?
Feanor, he is he hasn't been brought up in the show yet, but like he is such a big, actually they Celebrimbor mentions his name when he has like his hammer, and it's like, this is what Feanor used to build the Silmarils. So a very like big name obviously in the Tolkien universe. I am very curious what they're gonna do with him, because he should, like, he is dead by this point. I think he died in the First Age, if I remember correctly. Like the whole, like, he is like one of the biggest players like in the First Age stuff going on. But
and
like,
he just built them as they have connections to each other, so people could communicate far distances. Is that what it was?
he was
like
just obsessed with like making.
telephone?
Yeah, he was just obsessed with making like absolutely beautiful things. So like he makes these Silmarils, which just captures like the light of the Valar basically. And then I got to do more research on the Palantir.
Okay.
Maybe I'll hit the books in the next episode. I'll have some more answers for you. But yeah, it's because they always just say this where it's like, oh, all the other ones are unaccounted for.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think Sauron has one of them, I would imagine. I think a couple just probably are in the sea somewhere, as all things tend to be
The
sometimes.
stranger's gonna get one when it's revealed to be Saruman. You know, he's also gonna be like,
He's
"Look
got
what I
like
have in my
2.
cloak."
Yeah, I got
yeah.
2.
You want one?
Collecting
I'll give
them. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
juggling Palantirs.
Kills Poppy and Neri. They like try to
Oh
use it. They
my
just
God.
explode. Oh my sorry friends. No stranger this week. No stranger. This
No
week.
stranger. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah, no
it's funny how last week we didn't have any Khazad-dûm stuff, like no dwarves or Elrond,
Mhm.
and then it just kind of shifted. Where we had like a mix of mostly everyone, but not the Hardfoots this time around.
Yeah.
So
It
I think for the
seems,
most part, like the spread though, like it's working for me. I think.
Oh yeah.
Well,
spread it.
I think to me it seems like it's very intentional because they want whatever story we're missing to have that time jump. So for this story, like by the time we start this episode, they're already like halfway done that tower. What is it? I forget what it's called that they're building. That Celebrimbor is architecting this thing. Then the dwarves come over to
not
build.
sure.
It's already like half done by the time, or I
Mhm.
presume it's like half done by the time we start this episode. So obviously that makes sense because yeah, they weren't there last episode, so some time has passed. And so I'm guessing that's why the Harfoots weren't here, or at least one reason is because they are just going to go on their journey. So maybe by the time we see them next, maybe they've already like done that journey, or they're near the end of it, or they've at least like been on it for a couple weeks or something like that. So that's what I would think. And if it is like purposeful, the reason they're leaving characters out so you can have that time jump and then like fill in other stuff in the meantime, I think that could work pretty well. So we'll report back on the next week and see if that is consistent. But yeah, I mean, as you mentioned at the top, Travis, like there's a lot going on now. We even got like, yeah, Isildur's sister has like some random love story now too. So you got to make time for all these things somehow. And I'm totally okay to leave someone aside for an episode and come back and see what they've been doing in the meantime.
See, now I have to wait and see till we get to the end because I don't know for sure if I'm fine with us leaving time. Because if this like romance really leads to nothing, it's just like to fill some time. Then I go, you know what? Now I needed some of those other people back. You know.
I mean,
but,
right now we have to be under the assumption that it's there for a reason.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
I don't know. You don't dump this kind of budget into a show to just fuck around and throw random scenes in there, right? So we'll see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, is there anything to add on Isildur's dad this week? You know, we had the boat thing, which was I thought a little harsh. You know, just I know you wouldn't drop it and stuff. Harsh punishment, but you know, I'm happy that they are coming on this adventure. Isildur's dad did not look the happiest though when Isildur put up his hand, so I'm sure he's feeling uneasy about his son joining him in potential combat. So.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see Isildur in that type of environment because up until this point, he's not the like the war leader that I've known, seen. You know, like the opening to Fellowship. So I don't know. He's just like he goes from this scrawny dude to like this very like broad looking soldier. So I'm excited to see what that transition will be. Whether it's just I don't know. He just gets shredded. He's doing a lot of chin ups on the boat ride over. He just comes off like a 6-pack or something, built like an MMA fighter. Or just how he is in a war like scene because we've seen shots of them like in their just glorious Numenorian armor, like the Queen Regent with this sweet. I mean, Dylan, if you liked already her outfits, wait till you see her like armor with her big like helmet. It looks awesome.
Hell yeah.
So I'm excited to see all that stuff, but definitely just how Isildur fares in that environment because clearly, he's kind of down on himself. He's definitely feeling like he needs to prove himself in a way. He's let his friends down. He's let his dad down. So I think we're gonna be seeing some good stuff from Isildur because especially if you've only seen like the Peter Jackson stuff, he's just kind of portrayed like, oh, he's just the guy that like actually started this whole war because he just couldn't toss the ring into the fire, right? But I think there's a lot more meat and potatoes to unpack in that barbecue tinfoil wrap.
It's very true.
Very specific.
As you mentioned, like there's not really too much of substance here for him this episode, and I'm really curious to see what road they go down because obviously like him, Elrond and Galadriel are for me who's like casual-ish like those. Oh, I know those characters. I've seen them around before, and I've
Mhm.
obviously seen the least of Isildur. But I want to. Yeah, I'm curious to just get more of his characterization because so far he just seems like he's quite aloof. He's not really paying attention. Kind of zones out a lot. He's kind of a family man, but he just going drinking at night by himself over in this one place. So I don't know. He's a bit of an interesting character for what I assume is going to be a very big character. I feel like with what they've given us so far, it seems like he would just be some side character that's there for some moment here or there. But I am excited to see when they really dive deep into him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else on Numenor or those characters? I know they might come up. I feel like we've tackled most of that island.
Yeah, that was all my stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Fanboy Clay in the chat was asking the sword they showed in one scene. Was that Narsil? I don't even remember what sword he's referring to.
I think
Do you
he's
guys
talking
know?
about the Chancellor. When the Chancellor took out his sword,
Oh,
maybe I could
okay.
be wrong, but
I guess that is possible because I don't think Elendil would have Narsil yet. I believe he gets it like later on in the Second Age. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there. So I know it descends from like the bloodline of Elros. So whoever is like related to him, which I guess could be the Chancellor right now. So that could totally make sense. He says, no, when Galadriel and the Queen were talking after they saw the king. I'm missing that scene. I'll have to rewatch it. Sorry, Fanboy Clay. I missed that one. Yeah.
Let's take an ad break and then we'll move on to some other characters or situations. So we'll be right back. We're back. So I was going to start the bidding at something I was happy about. So last week we got a big tease for a potential big bad. What's the name again, Kirklin?
Adar.
Adar. And he was with, what was the elf's name now?
Arondir.
Arondir.
Adar,
Yes.
Arondir, and stuff like that. So I was like this because I think we met the villain. We got a little bit, but not too much. So that keeps it mysterious. And I like that Arondir got to leave. That he let him go because I said before, I don't know how much interest I would have had of him just being locked up here for a whole season and stuff like that. So I liked that. I liked the scene. I liked him finding the kids. I liked them using the daylight, everything. Anytime Lord of the Rings is doing like a slow motion bow and arrow scene, we're usually in for a good time here. So I liked this little thing. It felt very much like a calm before the storm because the villain never got mad, just explained some of his motives and then kind of carried on. And I actually loved, we talked about last week how like the orcs had such a, I don't know, reverence for him, but even when they're about to die, it was like they were being blessed. That one orc, like, oh, this guy's touching my forehead, and then he does the final blow. So I like
this guy,
this guy there. But like, I liked everything with all the characters, even with the. I don't know. We'll talk more about the specific magic sword and stuff, but other than that stuff, I liked it. Thought it was the right amount, and I think it was. They gave our, maybe our main bad for the season a semi-introduction, but didn't give you the full meat and potatoes. So, honestly, I was happy with all this stuff, and again, I was happy we weren't just he was being a prisoner for 3 to 4 more episodes because I would have got bored of that real quick.
Yeah, that's fair. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Kurt.
I really like basically everything in here. Like the slow-mo scene, I liked, but in some way it just kind of it seemed a little weird to me that they just had like this like escape and like I like the action. I like seeing elves just show off their super reflexes, catching arrows and all that stuff. But then like when the mom just like showed up with her sickle and it was just this like weird moment of like Arondir like push the kid down. I get it, duck from the arrows and all that stuff. But then he's like, get going. It's like I would have you stop fucking kicking me. But
he just doesn't like the kid because it's his son, right? So he's just like, oh, I hate this guy.
I hate this guy.
This half breed, half elf.
Yeah, I did not want a child.
So I think for the most part I like that sequence because it's just like anytime orcs are chasing our heroes in the woods, it's terrifying and they definitely captured that terrifyingness. But it was just like that one sequence where it was just like they're chasing them, but they just have a moment to just kind of like. The mom comes over and like just kind of like doesn't really do much.
The logistics did not make sense at all. Let's be real.
Yeah, 100%. And then in classic fashion, once they get to like that sunlight barrier, the orcs don't go for any further past, and then they're just shooting arrows and missing like crazy. Those orcs are never accurate with those arrows.
And they're always like, there's a pack of 50, but only one is up ahead. So like he can take out one with that arrow, and they get a little bit more time. But I like the usage of daytime to get rid of them, because obviously it's funny. That's something you talk about from the books you want to see that carried over, and I feel like
Mhm.
they've used that a lot in this show. It's like
I
and
love it.
One, it's gonna be probably used for plot armor quite a bit of like how do we get away from 100 orcs? Well, we just gotta get some sun, but at the same time, I don't mind it.
Yeah, they really trusted that sunlight because there was a lot of clouds and stuff. But they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I know the sun's coming because they just stopped moving. They were like, okay, well, fate takes us or the sun comes up.
Fate takes.
I
That's
think
exactly what I was thinking. That moment. I'm like, I'm so glad it's not a rainy day right now because they would just
Yeah.
be fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the logistics threw me off a bit, but I did like that. I love when he caught the arrow, spun it around, put it in his bow. The slow-mo, you can see the bowstring bouncing back and forth a few
Oh
times.
yeah,
It was
cheek
it was-
ripple, like it was good.
yeah. It was very crispy, so I liked that part of it. As for the Adar,
Mm-hmm.
that's the scene I gotta watch back with the subtitles because
Mm.
I could not understand much of what was being said there. So I'll do that before next week, and then maybe I'll have some more interesting thoughts on him.
They-
But in
He
terms of
spoke
the look
pretty
of him,
cryptid.
I think it's pretty cool, and the idea of having like he looked like because obviously one side was like elf ear, but it looked like the other side was like just a regular man. So but maybe I gotta watch it again because it's probably not.
It's
the
some
case,
long
but
hair, possibly just covering one
yeah,
of the ears.
they love hiding ears behind long hair, but
Yeah.
I mean, just the concept of an elf who's kind of the leader of a pack of orcs is quite interesting, right?
and like the dynamic, like yeah, like that is interesting enough. But like the way that the orcs just like have so much like reverence, is that the right word for that? I
Yes,
guess so.
yes.
Like for him,
I lost
that
it.
that is like the most intriguing thing for me, honestly, because I've never even seen like orcs kind of like have that like sorrow when like seeing another orc is dead. Like I always just thought they were
No.
like complete assholes,
Very
just meat back
selfish.
on the menu, boys, ready to just eat the next fallen orc. But in that moment, like it was just like they were all kind of like doing like a ritual. Like they all like bowed when Adar came up. He like does his little speech, like basically tearing up in his eyes, does this like like mercy kill, and then everyone just like does their little head nod, picks up that orc and takes him away. And I've never seen that behavior from orcs before, and I don't know if that's something new, if that's just something I haven't read about before.
I guess
but I
there's-
thought it was interesting.
There's a little bit of element with Saruman. Obviously, he's a much different beast, but at least he's not an orc that they kind of have these kind of conversations with and just follow his orders and things like that. So, but yeah, I mean that's definitely an exception as well because he's one of a few that Saruman.
Yeah, and it was. I'd say like maybe his message was a little anticlimactic of give me the land or stay on the land, but work for me or you die. It's like, okay, we've kind of been here before, but I feel like that's what he's there to do, right? Push the plot forward to the evil guys and stuff like that. So I'm excited once we potentially get some sort of maybe not a full-on war, but a full-on field scene of some stuff going on. I hope that's coming because now we got some certain bad guys that have like lots of enemies and stuff. So.
Yeah.
I have a random point here. I'm curious if you guys feel the same way, but one thing I was really noticing in this episode, and I think it kind of exists in some of the other ones as well, is that I feel like the sense of scale in this, in terms of like time scale, to me is feeling a bit wonky. We talked about this a lot in Lord of the Rings Retro in terms of just like, oh, this is actually like months long period, or there's like a huge time jump here, but they don't really talk about it explicitly, but you can kind of pick it out, or you guys would be like, okay, in the books there actually is like this huge time jump here. We would talk about this a lot, but I feel like one thing that you can't deny is that there is like the travel sequence, like the days that it takes to get places makes the world feel like huge and all this stuff. And obviously we see these huge zoomed out shots of characters just walking and traveling and stuff like that. I feel like this show is not succeeding in that same way, and I understand it's like a pacing thing where you don't want to just spend all your TV show of people walking around and stuff, but it's something that makes the world feel a lot smaller for me, where it's like the kid that I forget the name of and his friend, they go to that town to go get some food, and I feel like to get there, it seemed like it took them like 5 minutes, but then it was like nighttime by the time the guy was like coming back up. And I don't know, it just felt a bit off. And then Elrond going to the mines, it seems like that takes him like 5 minutes to go from the elven homeland to like the dwarven homeland. And he's just constantly going back and forth. Arondir making it to the tower and seemed like good 10 minutes. It took him to get like from there. So I don't know. That's something that's feeling a bit off about it, and makes it feel like all these locations are like a couple hours jaunt from each other. So I don't know what the solution to that is because I don't even know if it is a problem, but it's just something that I noticed a lot in specifically this episode. So I'm curious if you guys like are noticing that as well, or maybe you just don't care.
I think I'm that route that I notice it, and it keeps it from maybe being the highest, like, oh, you really thought this out, but at the same time, I guess I don't care, because then it's like, they could have a line like, oh, I've been here for actually 3 days trying to get back here, but as long as they give me some story I'm enjoying, I guess that's why I don't care. As of right now, there could be something later on that's a big deal, but
I just love those Lord of the Rings travel sequences, I think.
Yeah.
And there's something missed about just like bonding on these random trips that really does it for me.
And like definitely not to the extent that we saw in the Peter Jackson trilogy, but like we did get a little bit of travel, at least in that first episode. Like we see those aerial shots of like the elves just like hunting down Sauron, right? Like we just get like a quick what would it be? Just collection of scenes, I guess, in those aerial sequences. So even that,
well, even Galadriel last episode going to get those scrolls, like that felt like it took a long time and it was a journey, but yeah, and then there's other times where they're just like, never mind, we'll just make this, like he'll just fast travel over here. So
yeah, and I feel like in this episode, some of it, like it was totally fine with me, like specifically the Arondir one. Like I don't mind like not having like a camera behind him. It was just like escaping of it, not even necessarily escape, just leaving that sequence, because when he pops up, it's just like, oh, that's a nice little surprise. He comes in and saves. I looked up his name. I think it's Theo. Yes, Theo is the boy with the.
I'm writing these names down. And I keep adding more to my list, but then there's always someone's name I'm missing.
There could have been more build up to that, because I just thought it would very fast. So yeah, it's not that I like, oh, this is bad, but it did kind of move at warp speed. Like, hey, this is what we're doing. Go with it. You go, okay, I will accept that. But where other scenes, they take a while, So.
Yeah, and like the Elrond one, definitely that was one that stuck out the most for me, because it just. It's hard to tell how far like Celebrimbor is and where Khazad-dûm is, because it seems like it should be far away.
Races
but
hate each other so much. Why would they live like a 5-minute walk from each other?
I know, and I'm gonna have to rewatch, because I can't remember if they said specifically like where they are, because I thought Lindon was where like Gil-galad is, which isn't where Celebrimbor is, to my knowledge.
No, they're in Erengion, I think it's called.
Eregion.
I forget how it's pronounced.
Another pasta.
That's where that's where Celebrimbor is.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that is pretty close to like where Rivendell like eventually is. Rivendell's not like actually there, or maybe it is like the same place and they just kind of rebranded at some point.
I thought that would have been closer to Lindon. It seemed more aesthetically similar.
Yeah, and I'll pull up my ancient maps like I'll go in my basement like in Minas Tirith.
Like Gandalf from Fellowship of the Ring,
Exactly. Yeah, I'll check the scrolls to confirm that, because I'm curious about that. But so definitely I feel like maybe honestly like 50-50 of like the travel stuff hit me this episode. And as you mentioned, Dylan, like it's just such a staple of like Lord of the Rings to just have this like actual travel sequence. Like it just scales the world so big, or like so much better. And like obviously having these big aerial shots, it's like, okay, I can see how big these mountains are, but until we're like seeing our characters on those mountains, it's kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit tougher to get the same feel.
I was going to say, because we talked about the adults, we should talk about the kid in this situation and what he's got cracking going on. And stuff like that, which is good, because I feel like now most stuff I'd seen in the trailer, I feel like we've seen now in previous or in this episode, because I remember that was a big selling point. Because I don't know if it was the first trailer, but the first time we ever heard Sauron mentioned in a trailer was this old guy being like, Sauron's coming back and he's a blah, blah, and I was I
forgot about that too.
Yeah, I was like, look at that. So I thought that scene with him and the orc was actually a dream sequence for a second. I'm like, there's no way he's just like killing this orc right now, but it came out of nowhere. It was chasing him. I like the well stuff. I like everything we talk about. There's not much more I can add. I'm just like the lore with the sword and what it could be and what it's doing. And I like that they have a group of orcs that are actively looking for it. It's not just, hey, they came across these people and they happen to have it. Now they've seen this. Like, he has this thing. We got to find him and stuff. So there's a lot of good intrigue here for me between that. And like I said, my worries at the beginning of the season was this love story was going to be played up very much before with Arindir and what's the lady's name? It's like
Bronwyn,
thank you. Yeah, and I feel like it's not, if there's any allusion to the love story they might have. It's been pretty small so far. Now they're back on the road together, or back together, so that might change. But
They were holding hands at the end a little bit. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm very excited to see what happens with this sword storyline. I love that the orcs are looking for it. I love that there's gonna have some dark magic to it. So I liked majority of everything with that. So
I love too that we didn't abandon this watchtower like we thought we were going to. Hey, like because early on they're like, we got to leave this place. We're going back to the Undying Lands, but then we're back at this awesome looking tower, just a Skyrim looking tower. It's exactly what I get from it.
yeah.
Yeah, I love the look of it, just because when we first saw it, it was a very quick scene, and I think they're in like the upper part of the tower.
Yeah.
But now we saw like the actual town part. We saw some people just sitting around in a circle. There's a little fire there to keep people warm and all this stuff, and I love seeing that kind of just ground level stuff. And you know, the old man also mentioned that the meteor is the symbol of Sauron coming. So I thought that was a interesting touch, because it's like, are you talking about the guy in the meteor, or do you just mean that is alluding to the start of these events that are going to now unfold? Which I don't know why he'd be in the meteor. I don't think that's at all where we're going. I think it could just be an old folks tale that he's talking about too. But I thought there was an interesting line, something that was definitely said with intention. So I'm keeping an eye on that now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I feel like it's not exactly like, oh, that's a Sauron thing, but I feel like I'm starting to lean more towards that Balrog thing of just like, even if it's not a Sauron thing, it's kind of symbolizing that what could have been that star, that man could be the representation of something evil or bad, whether it is a for or against his will. So that's how I almost took it too, that definitely something's not good is happening with a stranger when you have a line like that of, oh, the sign of Sauron. Like, to me, that was like, whether it's by choice or not, I think it's gonna have a sad ending for that character. So,
and like I feel like with this show, like there's obviously gonna be just a lot of hope, a lot of like positive stuff going on. We got the Heartfoots in here spreading just love and joy, but like there's a lot of bad stuff that's yet to come. So like yeah, absolutely, I think there's some bad things going on with this stranger, and it's not gonna. There's going to be some Hardfoots that are going to have some tragic ends, I would imagine.
No. That's
but
not
just
going to run away with that broken foot.
Yeah, they're going to leave him to die.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like with Theo, Bronwyn's child, possibly Arondir's, and this blade, I'm definitely... I feel like before... I don't know. This was one of the storylines I was like at the bottom of my interest level, and now it's just like shot right up. I'm still like Galadriel has been like the number one, just because like Morfydd Clark is just she's and like we haven't even talked about her yet, but like this episode, god damn, Lady Galadriel, she's on fire today. But yeah, no, like that storyline has me so intrigued because Arondir is just he's looking so badass, and I liked all the hard decisions they had to make. And like he lost like two best buddies, right, in that last episode. So like he's gone through a lot, and I've been interested following his character. But now it's like the actual village. I am so intrigued by them because it's really hitting me more. Because like the first time I saw, obviously in that trailer, I didn't know that this old guy was like actually descendants of like men that just worked with Melkor. Like they were his soldiers, they were like his forces. So now that line hits so differently. It's like, ever heard of Sauron? Because before it was almost like he's like spreading fear to the child, but now it's like our guy is coming back. Like we're gonna like we're gonna do this, and it's like it just has this really dark like twist on that scene from what I thought it was. I thought it was like bad omens are coming, like, you know, be terrified, but it's like, no, this is a good thing, and he's showing his own mark. Does that just mean that he had the sword at some point? That's probably where they got it in the first place, I'd imagine. It was probably that guy's house that had the blade.
Yeah, he said that was like in his barn.
Oh,
right?
did they? Okay, yeah, I missed that line. But yeah, even just the whole sequence of him like actually, it's kind of activated by blood or something, I guess, and then the blade comes out. The effects for when he like stood down that orc, it looked so sweet, and I'm very intrigued on what this is because it's got that Morgul blade vibe. Absolutely, obviously, I've never seen a Morgul blade work this way before, of like activated by blood. It's almost like a a weird take on a lightsaber. I don't think you need blood to activate a lightsaber. Just the way it comes out, and
Not yet.
I don't know. Is this implying that like maybe Adar is like one of the earlier like Nazgul type experiment, like a prototype of it? Because like he looks like he's gone through some shit, right?
He
And
ain't
clearly
looking
he's
good.
loyal to Sauron. So
Well,
I'm
and that's
intrigued
where-
what that is.
And that's where we know that maybe not all of them, but some of these storylines are going to have to interlink somehow, right? When you got these many things, and maybe it is just like all this bad stuff's happening and Sauron's a cause, but I think there will be things like that that start to bring other stories all together. And even though they are semi the same story, what was his name? Adir, whatever. Like he had no
Adar.
He had no interaction with Theo, right? Like he doesn't. I don't think know he has and stuff like that. That could be
No.
something he is looking for. It could be something that's meaningless to him. But I think eventually you'll get these things kind of answered. But now the orcs are. They're sniffing around on them at least. So
And definitely after this episode, I think they're gonna know what the description, because like the orc even said, right, like the boy has it, like
yes, they know.
so
what they're
now
looking
it's
for now.
it's not it's in this area now. We're looking for a boy, and that's
Mhm.
definitely it boosts up the crises level because now
Oh, yeah.
Adar knows kind of what to look for, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't think I have anything else on that sequence. Just some Elrond stuff, or do you got anything else on that?
No, again, I
storyline?
just like the scene where he killed the orc. I like all the orcs were looking creepy in this episode, and it was a good way to start the episode because there's not much action, but that was like a little taste of it. So
It was so great. I'm so glad they replayed that shot too of like Adar's perspective, like walking into the room and just like all the orcs with like their
Yeah.
helmets and everything just bowing down to him. They've used that scene so many times. Like it's in 2 episodes now. It was in I think at least one trailer, probably like a teaser as well. It looked phenomenal, so I have no problem with them just reusing that one so many times. But yeah, no, I love just the whole Arondir Adar like just interaction, because it was just it was like so strange from Arondir's perspective, because he's seen like a fellow elf who's like it's the elves versus Sauron here, and like just seeing one of your own obviously like wearing that black armor looking just very creepy, and like the way that he was just so puzzled on why the orcs would have been calling him like Lord Father or whatever they called him. It
and
was
then he let him go too. That's it.
yeah, no, that was a very weird thing, because it was like, oh, that's pretty easy, but you know, he had a
He's
message to send them.
He did, and I feel like he's trying to. You'll see at some point try and recruit Arondir as well later on. I feel like
Yeah.
kind of get his side of the story. I think that's going to happen because I feel like that conversation never felt threatening to me, even though he was a scary guy. He never was putting threats or kind of like, "You better do this." It just felt like because it was a fellow elf, there was a certain respect there, and maybe even care. But I think later on, he'll be like, "Well, you know, choose this life with me. You can still be an elf. You just got to look a certain way, you know."
Yeah, I'm and I'm just so fascinated to find out more about this Adar character and what his origin is, because like he already kind of related a little bit to Arondir. Like he asked him where he was born, you know, on like the shores of Beleriand, I think he said. And like he was there as a child, so I would assume that means Adar is like much older than what Arondir is. It's so hard to tell with elves, right? Like
Oh yeah.
Galadriel was born in the year of the trees, before even the first age started, and she looks very young in here, so it's always tricky. But yeah, I'm very fascinated by the Adar thing, because obviously that was a big cliffhanger last week. It was something I was very much looking forward to entering last week, because the fucking episode was labeled Adar. I'm like, this is it. We're getting the face
Yeah.
reveal. They
And I actually
jerked me
thought-
around.
I actually thought there might be a chance too that they might not show us the Adar thing this week too. I thought they easily could have
Really?
waited a little bit. Yeah, just because like why not? You know, because some shows do that where it's like, let's keep people feasting on that one because they know they're excited for it. But we got them and stuff like that. Just like
Yeah.
we're about to get this next ad break. We're getting it right now. I was gonna say next ad break, not exactly, but anything else on those 4-ish people? Oh,
Not those 3,
specific.
4.
Okay. Let's talk about the dwarves. I want to talk about the dwarves because, again, another thing I was surprised to get was the answer of what was in the little box, chest, whatever it may be. I thought that was going to be stretched out a little longer, and hence my name, you know, more than meets the eye. That was the big reveal that it's not the Arkenstone, it's not the ring, it's not whatever was in Marcellus Wallace's suitcase from Pulp Fiction. It is Nithro, which I was pleasantly surprised but underwhelmed at the same time, but it made sense, so I wasn't disappointed. But I was like, okay, Nithro. But like I felt like we were like, what is this? But the fact that it was just Nithro, I was like, okay, this tracks, this works for me and everything like that. So, and it does feed into the larger world going forward. So overall I was happy with it. I don't know now, knowing what it was, if it deserved the whole last week of like, oh, them looking at the chest and it being very secretive. I don't even know if it deserved that much, because I feel like that created a bit more theory crafting, and I feel like for me the Oakenshield would have been much more hype and stuff. But I like that we got there. I like that's more establishing again the friendship between Elrond and what's our main? It's like Devar. What's our main dwarf here? His friend
Durin.
Durin. Thank you. So I like that it kind of was a sign of trust for him, telling him this. He took an oath, swore on his father, but then also giving him a piece of it.
Yeah.
But then later, that conversation with his dad was very curious, because I don't know if he was just saying that because his dad was there, or if he truly believes that Elrond and the elves might be just kind of using us for their own means. And that's what I like. So that mystery there, dynamics, liking everything I've liked with the dwarves so far, I continue to like. So.
And like that particular little hint at like just more sus. I mean, like entering when we first meet the dwarves, like they're obviously very sus of the elves, and like the relations aren't good, and we can't just end the show and things are fine and dandy, because obviously when we get to like the fellowship, there is still that tension there. So I like that they're really playing on these lines of like maybe the friendship between the elves and the dwarves is really more so like the relationship between particular characters, like in Elrond and Durin, not like the elves and the dwarves are like actually best allies. But I love that little shot too. Like I think you already shouted out Dylan though, but like when they're building the tower and Elrond's just like dwarves and elves working together again, like it's just
I want to see that on ground level though. Like I really want to see. Like I know we don't necessarily know the names of any characters. We haven't been introduced any down there. But even just a couple kind of lore scenes of them working together.
I agree.
On the job site, like I want to see that really badly. And I almost was a bit disappointed how little time we actually spent in that city. We got just that one conversation, and then, like I said, Elrond teleported over to the mines. So a little bit disappointed with that. I hope we see more of it, because I was really excited for that construction sequence, and I feel like maybe they're just going to gloss over it, and then we're going to see it when it's done.
This is probably not the case because of Amazon, but it felt like one of those moments where it's like, we don't have the budget to show these type of scenes. But I feel like it is kind of crucial to show those scenes, especially if dwarves and elves maybe working together. So I agree, I'd like a little bit more on that, but it's I don't know if that's going to happen per se. You know, so.
I do feel lucky that we at least saw like some construction going on. I like seeing like the elven pulley system, because I've never seen that ever in Lord of the Rings ever, like actual constructing, because I always hear these stories of like Celebrimbor came here and built this city, built this structure. Anarion came back and like made Minas Tirith, and it's just like I hear these things and I'm like, did they just do this with magic or something? Like I never actually see the process, because it's very elaborate and like crazy designs,
like
right?
On that crane thing, there was like a huge piece of wood that was like spiraled.
Yeah,
and I'm sure it was like had just tons of tension, which was like bringing the crane up, which is like, how the fuck do you do that?
Maybe they're maybe they're super mathematicians or something, you know?
Yeah,
maybe they're
definitely. So I had a question about this Elrond thing, because to me I was puzzled why he was just allowed to go back in the mines. Like I know that they had made this friendship between, or at least this business relationship, we'll say, between the dwarves and truce, that's a good way to put it. And then so that makes sense, but I still feel like, well, why is Elrond just allowed to freely enter the mines now? And especially because even the characters that he's very close with, Durin and his wife, that I can't remember the name of her, but
Diza, I think her name is
Diza. Okay, I'll write that down so I remember it. Like they're obviously being very cagey. They're trying to like hide something from him. So why are they letting him back in? I didn't understand that. Do you guys have a different perspective on that than me?
I took it like they kind of want to keep an eye on Elrond, so they like keeping him close. It is weird that they just kind of like let him free roam there.
Yeah, because like no one's even accompanying him. He can just walk around. He can eavesdrop. He can go check out some mines. Like no one's watching him.
Like I almost took it like, well, maybe he just snuck around, because like clearly we saw Galadriel do that in this episode, but like show him doing that. Like it's believable. They're elves. They're nimble. Like we've seen them. Just they start with good stealth stats, you know, if you played any high fantasy game like that. So yeah, it was a little bit weird. I will admit that, because it was almost like, no, you can't go down there. Like Durin's down there. We're doing this, and then they just, because even when like the guards kind of like catch him snooping around, it's like, what are you doing? Like, what's your business? It's just like, no, I know exactly where I'm going. They're like, okay,
Yeah,
It's like, really? Okay.
kind of bizarre. Yeah.
Just some Jedi force powers, you know,
Yeah.
not the
I-
droid you're looking for.
Let me go.
I like the use of seeing the elf ears though. Like we always show up with elf ears and eyes of
Mm.
how he just like heard like a little whisper of what they're telling.
Yeah.
Even when they say like, "Oh, we gotta be quiet," people could be listening. And I like that he's 50 feet away and he's just like zeroing in on that conversation. So really enjoyed that aspect.
Real daredevil moment. And I'm loving Elrond, to be honest. Like I think the actor's doing a great job. I'm really captivated by this character, and I like the dynamic between him and the dwarves, even if there is that one point that I'm a little confused on. And I got to say, that conversation that him and Durin had, where Durin was complaining about his father because he wasn't letting him do what he wanted to do, essentially. And then Elrond kind of goes on this long story where he's talking about the time he spent with his father, and then he ties it back to, like, don't take this time for granted.
Yeah.
And then we got that scene where Durin goes back. Like, I just thought that was incredibly well written, very well acted, just a very earnest moment. And it showed that even though there is clearly some tension, or at least from the dwarf side, I think there, some sort of long cons going on, there is still some sort of sincerity to their friendship that I really appreciated. So yeah, I loved that scene. Really stood out to me.
Absolutely.
No,
Yeah,
I agree.
I completely agree. That was a very touching scene because we have Elrond just, in such an eloquent way, giving us some history lesson about his father and just like his role of like getting the Valar involved. So I feel like how they keep just sprinkling that little history stuff, I'm definitely appreciating because it's digestible. It's not like, oh, this random character did this random thing. Like it's really just like, no, my father was this guy.
Yeah.
Went to the Valar, asked for help, and that's the result. And then he just went to the Undying Lands because he was just so honorable. And it's just like, okay, yeah, I'm okay with that. Like it makes sense to me. And then obviously like it ties it back, and that life lesson moment. Just appreciate the time that you have with the people while you have them, because not everybody lives forever. So that was a great moment for sure.
That that scene written worse, that would have just felt like exposition. But
Yeah.
the way they
Yes.
did it made it feel like real genuine. You're right. Like there actually is some good nuggets of lore in there. I didn't even like really consider it. Like, oh yeah, there's actually some good stuff to dig into there. It's really well done.
Absolutely.
That's all my notes.
With Elrond, yeah, I'm definitely, I would say I've grown on him, but it's mostly like I was a little bit sus entering the show. Then like episode 1, it was like, oh, okay, I like this guy. I'm really liking the actor. I feel like maybe it was just like I know like the Elrond obviously from the Fellowship with like long hair, and then we had this guy with short hair. It was just like, okay, what are we doing here? And then no, he's doing a great job. And,
Where's his daughter?
Thousands of
it's-
years for his hair to grow up. Come on.
yeah. Elf's hair grows extremely short. He's got great hair product though. His hair's looking good.
Doesn't
But
move.
it's so interesting just seeing this more youthful Elrond, because he still has this like really, I don't even think it's the right word, but like a political approach. Like he's very like well spoken, and he's always like addressing like the lords as they should. He's always
Proper.
like very proper, very respectful and everything. But like something different from Elrond that we've seen when he's like thousands upon thousands of years old is like I feel like he's never really has a humor side to him, and that dynamic between him and Durin, or him and Disa, just fantastic. And I really hope we keep getting these moments of him just being like personable with people, because whether it's him and Galadriel, whether it's, I mean, Gil-galad hasn't been much of a character this whole show, but like briefly with him, and definitely more the Celebrimbor stuff. I'm excited to see more of those two on screen together, because I think they were fantastic. Even just like the moment of Celebrimbor just getting hit with that memory of like Elrond's father, and then like just him talking about that. I'm eating up all that stuff. I loved it, and I really like the actor that they have for Celebrimbor. He's fantastic. So yeah, I'm hoping for a lot more of those two on screen together, and just Elrond bouncing off other people. Like I'm really liking this guy. So
Nice.
big thumbs up there.
I hope to get to your points at one point someday. It's just something I don't know, I feel like it might be more of an acting wise. I just feel like he's not hitting it exactly, but at the same point, I have to try. I guess I try to, even Galadriel. We talked about, like, I think it's a bit more for you, Kirklin, where it's like, oh, you have a vision of Galadriel, and it's a little bit different. But even then, where it's like, I feel like Galadriel is different, but it's like, oh, I'm really liking this version, where this was just kind of feels very just white bread to me right now. But what I do like is I love when they told the story of how they met, and like, oh, I want to know the story. Oh, it was what was it, 2 fire trolls, he said, and I saved him. He's like, no,
Yeah.
I want to know what Elrond
It was
thinks
3
of the story.
actually. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that hook line thing where he's like, it was 3 actually. Like, oh, he's gonna make it sound even better for him. He's like, it was 3 that I killed, and I was like, oh no. So that was really
was
good
good.
stuff. So yeah, I like that back. That's when I like Elrond the most, when he's with Durin and everything. I think
Yeah.
when he's being serious Elrond, like when he does with Galadriel, I'm still kind of iffy on it, but I'm willing to give it a chance.
Yeah, we
but-
might not see that duo for a bit, hey? Might take a bit.
The Durin
Who?
and Elrond
Before
one?
like Galadriel and Elrond
Oh yeah.
like are meeting
Oh,
up
yeah.
again.
I
Right?
was like, Durin and Elrond, they're leaving.
They're leaving together.
next week. Yeah,
They're
yeah.
fast
They're
traveling
holding hands
together.
on the way
We're
out.
not
Yeah.
talking. I'm gonna leave first. You leave after. But, yeah.
I
And
saw you
you-
eavesdropping on me.
Mhm.
Yeah, I ain't been dropping no eaves, I swear. Yeah, like Durin, even like I'm really liking him as well as
Yes,
a
me
character. The relationship between him and his wife, I like their just banter together.
I like anytime
And-
the kids are around. They're just little shitheads. They're just always like,
Yeah.
I can't remember that line is something like, "What are you doing?" And it was just like being a something hitter or something smacker, and she's like, "Well, I'm gonna smack you if you don't stop." Like just
Yeah.
classic like dwarf like kids. I love.
They're
anytime
exactly what
just-
dwarf children like what you would
Yes.
expect for dwarf children.
the
right? Just these
parents,
little chaotic.
Their home life is
demons.
great, and it makes me feel like in this show we're gonna see something bad happen to that home life at some point, like with Durin.
So
Like,
they're gonna dig too deep and too greedily.
yeah.
of course,
Yeah, we almost
eventually.
lost her.
Balrog
Yeah.
just fucks them all up. Hey, we did see a Balrog, right?
I mean, eventually,
Yeah.
that very well could happen.
We saw it in the trailer. It's crazy. I mean, Travis, you were mentioning like we've already crossed a lot of things off the trailers that we have seen, but like
yes.
there is still a Balrog. There is still these
I think that's 7 or
Eminem-looking
8.
dudes, right? So
It's
My
weird that like
prediction-
with this show, I'm like, oh yeah, that'll happen like season 4. Like I'm thinking way down the road, but you know they do need to have big things that happen, big stakes and all this that happen in the first
Yeah.
season, of course. So I'm sure we'll get some stuff.
My prediction is Balrog ends episode 7. So for the finale, people are like,
Ooh.
"Fuck, I gotta tune into this." That's my
Yeah.
prediction. Travis told
Fuck.
you right there.
right on.
All right.
It was something along the lines like they're doing knocks, knocks. Mom is like, well, knock it off. That's what she
Ooh,
said.
There you
so.
go.
There you go.
I love that line as well. I don't think I have anything more to say on Cause of Doom other than I like what we're seeing of it. I want a little bit more. Like how we like
I agree.
Numenor. We like
Now
we
we're leaving too.
well, like yeah, I guess so. Numenor, like we had like the throne room scenes, the dock scenes, and then like that new one in like that open market area. Like we're just going to different locations. I want to do that in Cause of Doom, really, because it's just like
Yeah.
it's just like their living quarters, the mines, and then like that one bridge. And like we're seeing these like markets kind of down in like the nether regions of Cause of Doom. I want to go down there and see what like the markets are like for the dwarves,
Yeah.
right? And just how
This
all
is-
that banter goes off.
This is definitely the most CGI place out of all the sets, though. You know, like like so much stuff I don't feel is real. The sets when they're talking is fun, but like, and I appreciate like when the dad's looking out and he's just seeing like their whole land, but it's like,
Isn't it beautiful?
yeah, but it's
Look
like
at
none
my
of this is
sons.
real. None of it is real, and that's sometimes where it looks like
The
not
darkness
exactly real,
helps,
so.
at least for
Darkness
me,
helps.
honestly.
Smart. Yeah.
Definitely like behind Elrond's head in that one shot when you stand on the bridge, I was like, that's a green screen right there.
Yeah.
I can smell it. Yeah.
Yeah. I have nothing
Right.
else on Cause of Doom.
No.
I'm all
Okay.
out.
I was ready to just bring up some Galadriel stuff here.
Sure.
It's funny, we don't like talk about her so much because she's just like, in my eyes, just like been just so solid, like no dips at all. I had
Noted.
some, obviously, if you tuned into the last week's episode, I had some holdbacks on her whole thing. I feel like I've rewatched last week's episode as well, and after just hearing your guys' points of just like bringing up, well, like you gotta grow to that point where she is the Lady of Lorien, right? And definitely that I stewed on that a little bit more, and I feel like even like now sitting on that, I'm able to just appreciate her fiery attitude so much more because it's like, okay, what are like I'm gonna appreciate her kicking ass right now because we don't get that in the later
Yeah.
stages. So and
Well-
even just little things, whether it was like her getting thrown in jail and just storming like back and forth, like she's just so like uneasy. She just wants to be doing things, and yeah, like the scene I was alluding to earlier on when she was just popping off was when she was just totally grilling like the Queen Regents, like, well, give me the real king, and just like totally calling her
Yeah.
out there. And the line delivery was just so like intense, and I was loving it because that's where like she was commanding respect in that moment. It's like you don't just look at her and be in awe because she's the Lady of Lorien, like she just like shimmers and just glows. It's like, no, she is commanding respect in that moment, and she's done that a few times, especially like when she first gets taken to Numenor and speaks to the Queen Regent. she's just always shit talking this Queen Regent.
To
But
me
I'm loving it.
that speech felt like obviously it's not the same canon and the actor stuff like that, but it felt like, you know, the I will be a queen, like when
Yeah,
before
definitely.
in Fellowship when she gets like really magic and super creepy when she's just yelling at Frodo, that scene echoed that. And I feel like they did that, like I said, she had a line that Galadriel says later on in Fellowship. To me, this they had a lot of like echoing of that era of like the more angry Galadriel, and I dig that. So
Yeah, 100%.
didn't turn pure white, but you know, there's always time.
She didn't turn pure white. No,
Always
absolutely
time.
not.
Pure white with like an inch of green in there, you know, a hue.
I love the detail that they had of her like going on the boats and she's just like standing, like not
Yep.
having to sit because they just have like perfect balance.
Mhm.
Any little detail like that about the elves, I'm probably gonna shout out because I eat all that stuff up. Whether it's like back in Fellowship when you had like Legolas just like walking on the snow, like I love all that stuff. Just really differentiating the elves from regular humans, because if they just hide their ears, you know, like they're pretty non-distinguishable from
Yeah.
other men. Easy for me to say. And something too that it kind of surprised me going into this show, and it's been a pleasant surprise, I'm loving it, is when Galadriel is just being this little like thief and like sneaking around and just doing stuff, because obviously like I've never seen her do that before, but like last week's episode when she was sneaking around, like she's actually like climbing on, like she's playing an arcane game or something, abusing the verticality of the map.
Yeah,
And
that
then
was fun.
like this week,
I
like
want to
she
play an
climbed
arcane game in Numenor. Oh,
Oh,
don't
yes.
say that. Kirkland.
Absolutely.
Now you got me frothing.
So many moments just made me think of it, right? You got like the Queen Regent. I'm thinking of like that big spy master type character, just and like the dock sequence of everyone like just standing proper. Very much made me think of Dunwall. But yeah, like she climbs that like huge tower, breaks in like she's Pippin or something.
And
climbing
she's
up
doing
that
it in a long flowing gown. You know, you got to give her
Yes,
credit
can't
for
be
that.
easy.
doesn't
Not the
mess up her
best thief
hair
gear.
or anything. No, yeah,
Yeah.
she's phenomenal. So I'm loving Galadriel. Obviously, you know, she took a little bit of a step back. Last week's episode was basically all her and Halbrand and stuff,
yeah.
and Elendil. So totally fine. But I think I was kind of worried that we weren't going to get any of her because we were so focused on that, and I knew we were getting Elrond and Durin stuff. So, like I said earlier, I am really liking the balance of we are spending time with all these different stories. Reminds me of Game of Thrones in that sense,
Yes.
and like the earlier seasons for sure. Spending time with each character and different locations. Because then, like, I don't know, if you're not loving the Galadriel stuff, you're not just stuck in that for like an hour. You know, like they do spread it out good in my eyes.
Yeah.
Um,
You have to
I
with this amount of characters and stories too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't think I have any other notes really for this episode.
No, I had on mine. Yeah.
Something I wanted to bring up last week, but I completely forgot to, because this got brought up on, I think either like episode 1, or they dropped the first 2 episodes. So it was either in like our first section review or the second one, but someone was asking about like Ungoliant, the giant spider, and I was trying to describe just like how big
Right.
this actual thing is, and I loaded up in the drive. So this is like the beautiful, this is our background even, look at that. I brought it up, but it just looks like I kicked us away. So that's that beautiful image. You know, you got the trees of the Valar in the back, you know, so good scale image. And then this is like a artist rendition of what Ungoliant would be. Like, look at that.
Oh
Look at
my
that. So you got
gosh.
the trees way in the background. I'll swap it so you can like, so that's how big the trees would be, right? So this
Oh,
is
I
like
see
bigger
it,
that
yeah.
entire
This
castle.
is like a Godzilla-like spider.
That's fun.
Essentially, yes. And then to the right there, that would be Melkor. Like, that's how big he was. And again, this is like an artist rendition. This isn't drawn by Tolkien or anything. But I just wanted to give like a little point of reference so you can like kind of visualize how I say like Ungoliant is massive. It's like, no, she's actually massive.
That name has been stuck in my head for the last 2
Ungoliant?
weeks. It's just such a fun name. I just
Yeah.
love every letter is placed with such perfection. Ungoliant. So
Yeah.
fun.
So yeah, I want to bring that up just so you guys have a point of reference. So if they're it's like, oh yeah, Ungoliant's
Some
big,
nightmare
like
fuel
Shelob,
right
right?
there.
Shelob was a
Yeah.
big spider. It's like, no, this is like a completely different game there. And that's a really cool scene too, because that's kind of like Ungoliant sucking the life out of the like the trees, and that's how
He's
she
sucking all right.
yeah, that's how she destroyed them.
Hate to see it.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. Hate to see anything that big. You know,
Yeah,
unless
me
it was
too.
cheese. That's
The
I
GV
get excited
big,
with
right?
that,
Just a
but
big
yeah,
thing of
that's
cheese.
That's GV
Big
big.
cheese.
Yeah.
Once it starts molding though, you're seeing mold that big, then that's scary.
Oh God,
Yeah,
big
I don't wanna
mold.
go that.
Don't like that.
Yeah. No. big mold. No.
Gets in your lungs.
Yeah. The black lung pop.
Sheesh.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that is episode 4. Number 4, be
Correct.
clear. Next week we'll be
Halfway
entering past that line. Yeah, being over halfway through, and I think we got some good stuff. I think we're set for some good juice to happen the next little bit, and we'll see next week. Actually, Kirklin, there's a chance you might not even be on next week, right? There's a chance.
Uh-oh.
There's
I'm
a
scared.
chance. We'll see.
You give me some very confusing scheduling these past few days, but there's a chance.
Yeah,
So we
I
might
do that
swap a
sometimes.
Kirkland for a Taylor. But either way, there'll be an episode 5 review, and we'll be talking Rings of Power. Boil and mash 'em.
Boil and mash 'em.
Boy.